Well, hey, everybody, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. Nice to see you here. Welcome to the Christian Whistleblower channel. I am coming to you live, and I am coming to you from an undisclosed location, and we are somewhere deep in the heartland of America. Coming from the heartland to your heart, at least that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're trying for. We can't get to your heart, but unless you let us in, and we're hoping that it'll work for you. Terrell's having some trouble getting in to the webinar, and I don't really know why. So we're going to kill some time here and see if we can get him dialed in. I'm going to go ahead and send him the link one more time because sometimes these things can get, messed up and stuff like that. And there he is. See, it's not a simple science, ladies and gentlemen. You would think it would be, but it's not always a simple science. Terral BlackStar runs the YouTube channel of the same name. Great information on 9/11. Great information on what he calls the BlackStar Project. We're looking forward to talking to him about both of those things. And Terral, unfortunately, I got to bring in brother live. We're already rocking and rolling. So if you need to make any adjustments or, take a drink or do some personal business, go ahead and do that in the next few seconds, and we'll go ahead and bring you in. Cynthia recommended Terral to me, said it was great information, great teaching, and I'm looking forward to talking to him. I've surveyed his website, lots of great information, and we are really looking forward to expanding our horizons. We're looking forward to learning some new stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let me go ahead and bring in Terral BlackStar, and he will be coming before you know it. He will appear before our very eyes, as if, ladies and gentlemen, by magic. And I have unmuted him. And there he is, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Terral BlackStar. How are you? Nice to be with you.
Very good. Thanks for the invitation.
It is my pleasure. My lovely girlfriend said, Jeff, you got to have this guy on. He talks about great information. I think the folks on the channel would love to hear about him. So I reached out to you. I thank you for graciously accepting the invitation. And here we are, my friend.
Okay. Which direction would you like to go? Project BlackStar?
I think that with the Epstein stuff that's just happened, it's been a major red pill moment for a lot of people, and a lot of people that have not been thinking about conspiracy or thinking along these lines, or it's just been in the periphery of their minds. This thing with Epstein has let them think, wow, this is real. Something's going on. We're not telling the story. I've seen several surveys, and up to 50% of the U.S. populace that's surveyed is saying, we don't believe what the government is telling us about what's going on. So I thought this might be a good time, if it's all right with you, to talk a little bit about your information, your studies on 9/11, because that kind of is the tipping point and kind of the nexus of the whole idea of conspiracy and not being told the truth. And then we can move into your fascinating BlackStar project. Does that sound workable to you?
Yes. But whichever direction that you want to go.
Why don't you take the con and jump into 9/11, and I'll just jump in with a question now and then. If a good one comes in the chat room, we'll throw it up, but you have the floor, my friend.
Okay. Well, it's a topic that I haven't been asked about in a while. It took 5 years to run the investigation. You can get more information by going to terral03.com. It's in the central section, Project BlackStar on top, 9/11 Inside Job in the center, and then the Mystery Explained scripture stuff is on the bottom, seeing God's wisdom hidden in plain sight.
Will you repeat that one more time, the URL, so I can put it in the chat room?
Yes, TERRAL, which is my name, Terral, 03.com.
All right. It's in the chat room, folks. You can go there.
So you have three sections on the left, and we're going to talk about what's in the central part.
Perfect.
So lots of videos that are there. And this investigation took 5 years. Like I said, it's been said by Dick Eastman and others that it's the best investigation they've ever seen. Chapter 11 of my book is a 100-point timeline, the 100 top events of 9/11, and some of those events less than 1/100 of a second apart.
Amazing. And I'm showing the website on the screen now as you talk.
Okay. So the important thing for me as an investigator is the gift that I have is the keyword documentation. whether it's scripture, the Quran, whether it's 9/11 Commission report, the Arlington County After Action report, all these documents related to the 9/11 inside job were all analyzed. And the from the 9/11 Commission report, for example, the term explosions is used exactly 0 times.
Interesting.
There's never reported explosions. The singular term explosion was used exactly 6 times. And the singular, the plural word was never used in the Arlington County After Action report either. They've both been keyword sanitized by the lettered agencies. And the singular term explosion was used also exactly 6 times in the Arlington County After Action report. You're going to find if you just Google government documentation proves 9/11 inside job, the government documentation, the sworn testimony from our agencies proves 9/11 was an inside job. One of the good examples is from the FAA timeline, where Danielle O'Brien reported she was a Dulles Airport air traffic controller. The information that she provided at 9:32 is when the west side of the Pentagon was struck, at 9:31:39 precisely, according to the FAA timeline, 9:31:39. Now remember that the official reports say that the Pentagon was originally struck just in the seconds before 9:38. So there's a 6-minute window.
Wow.
Of missing opportunity, of missing information. And it's a very interesting story. If you want to get to the truth of 9/11, you have to forget about what happened in the New York theater, because that is a giant rabbit hole that is geared to lure you in so that you miss everything. So it's a magic trick. So
Terrell, did I hear you correctly? You said if we're really going to understand 9/11, we need to forget about what happened at Ground Zero in New York.
That's exactly
it's a distraction.
right. That's right. So the thing to realize is that the Global Guardian War Games began at 8 a.m. that morning, and the 9/11 inside job was carried out under the cover of the Global Guardian War Games as they were going on. The information that was put on Daniel O'Brien's screen came from the Global Guardians War Game exercise. So they were divided into 5 different exercises. Vigilant Warrior is the one that I'm talking about, and the Joint Chiefs were the ones that put that on. And air traffic control for the war games inserted the data onto Danielle O'Brien's screen at Dulles Airport. So she
was an air traffic controller.
That's right. Now she made the report at 9:31:39 that the west side of the Pentagon got struck.
Wow.
But now this is 6 minutes earlier than anybody's ever going to tell you. And if you go to the FAA timeline, it's going to tell you it happened exactly then. The reason is because the way that the air traffic control works is divided into different regions, and there's no central station to where everything can be manipulated. So the thing about the history is supposed to read that the Pentagon was struck at 9:31:39. That's exactly the moment that the Navy clock stopped in the Naval Command Center. That was whenever the missile, the hypersonic missile, was detonated that struck column line 14. There's a lot of data here. For example, from the taxi driver, Lloyd England. He was driving right out there on the highway, right out in front of the Pentagon. He was the last car that was let on in the southbound lane that morning. And as he was coming on, they set up the barricades right behind him because the president was supposed to land at the helicopter pad right across the street there. And another interesting thing is that you're standing about 35 feet above. If you get out of your car and look down, you can look right down on the Pentagon. And that's exactly what he ended up doing. Because as he came around the corner to go onto the Pentagon, light pole number 1 passed right through his windshield. A light pole right through his windshield. He looked to the right. I interviewed Lloyd over the phone myself, just like I interviewed April Gallup, who walked out of the hole of the Pentagon. Their stories line up perfectly.
Fascinating.
Okay, Alan Wallace, Mark Skipper, this was their first day on the job. They have pages and pages of sworn testimony. Whenever you look at the testimony of everybody, then you can see a picture of what happened here. So what happened was an A3 Sky Warrior refitted at Fort Collins Loveland Airport. 6 of them, a half a dozen of them, decommissioned Navy fighters. They were refitted to be part of the Global Guardian War Games. They were painted up to look like American Airlines jetliners. Okay. Well, one of these jetliners, one of these A3 Sky Warriors, is what Lloyd saw out to his right as he was making that turn. There's a Citgo station there just to his right. And there's plenty of evidence that came from the cameras there that lines up with exactly what I'm saying here. Giant shadow went over that service station at the same exact time. The thing is that the timestamps are exactly 10 minutes different. But anyway, Lloyd, he hears the big jet. He sees what looks like an American Airlines jetliner. And at the time that he sees this, the Hughes Raytheon hypersonic missile had already been released. During the 1.5
So, Terral, are we saying that the missile was released from the Douglas A3 Sky Warrior aircraft?
That's right, unmanned. This is being flown by remote control by the Joint Chiefs and under the Global Guardian War Games. This jet was launched from an aircraft carrier off of the coast of New York. It buzzed the theater. It buzzed right over the theater and flew straight south, straight over the White House. It made a descent of 1.5 miles in just under 2 minutes. And as it did, it released the Hughes Raytheon hypersonic missile that was put on there. And the remote control accessories, all that was put on at Fort Collins Loveland Airport. So as it's making this descent, it's getting ready to make a right-hand turn straight across at a 45-degree angle. It was very important that it make this 45-degree angle because of the way that the columns are set up. I happen to be, my family is a family of general contractors. We're very familiar with layouts of buildings, blueprints, reading blueprints and things. And I did all that analysis for the Pentagon. Well, these columns are 10 feet by 10 foot squares. And they had to create a depth corridor from the front of the E-ring, okay, the E-ring wall at the front to the C-ring wall in the back, all under one roof. And they had to strike at a 45-degree angle because what the bad guys had done, and this is Rumsfeld and this is Cheney, and they have been working on the continuity of government exercises since the days of Gerald Ford. These are former Council on Foreign Relations directors. And they've been putting together this scheme to launch the continuity of government plan that was launched that morning by Clark at about 10 a.m. So all this was planned ahead of time. And let me get back to the hypersonic missile. So the missile is, as it's getting ready to cross the road and strike the Pentagon, the timing is off. What happens is this guy goes hypersonic a little bit too early, and it throws off the A3 Sky Warrior, gets bounced around. As the wing dips down, the starboard wing dips down, the guy running the joystick is having a terrible problem. He's about to crash this A3 Sky Warrior into the Pentagon lawn and destroy the whole plan. So what happens is, as the starboard wing dips down, it catches light pole number 1. There were a total of 5 light poles that were uprooted. Okay, 5 of them. One of them was just clipped. This first one was uprooted. It was uprooted by the bow shockwave of the hypersonic missile. It was never struck by the actual plane. The one that was the light pole number 2 was struck actually by the plane. You can tell by the way it's clipped. It's clipped at the top. It was clipped by the starboard wing. The final 3 light poles are all twisted into pretzels by the hypersonic. It's because of the fluid dynamics and what happens at the tip of the hypersonic missile. This the bow shock wave was attaching and reattaching. That's the reason some of the light poles remain standing and some of them were twisted into pretzels. So here comes Lloyd, and he was the last car that's left in. Light pole, like a javelin, is sticking right through his windshield. And it did not even scratch the hood. It came through like a javelin. So what does he do? He stops. Well, on the other side of the street, right in front of the Pentagon, the northbound lane is sitting still. The traffic can't even move. It's all backed up. The southbound lane is empty because they wouldn't let anybody else on. Lloyd was the last one there. So when you look at the pictures of the Pentagon, you'll see this black guy, 69-year-old taxi driver. And he was bragging about the fact that he made a right-hand turn there in the street without screeching the tires. He thought that was pretty cool. So then he gets out and he's scratching his head. He's looking down at the Pentagon, and all he sees is a little hole, smoke coming out. That's all he sees, a little hole and smoke coming out. At the same exact time, Terry Cohen, you want to Google this name, Terry Cohen, gives the most important testimony of the whole 9/11 inside job. She was sitting in one of those construction trailers right out front. She had just started a meeting at 9:30. Just started, they had just sat down, taken off the hard hats. She was convening the meeting whenever this happened at 9:31:39. Okay, the ceiling tiles were knocked out, big explosion. They grabbed the hard hats, they ran out. They were standing in front of the hole within a minute because their trailer was right there. They run out the hole and they just see black smoke coming out. There's no fire. All they could see is smoke. Okay, so they were there for a little while. Lloyd at the same time is standing out in the middle of Washington Boulevard, looking down on the Pentagon, and all he sees is a black hole. That's all he sees. Smoke. That's it. So there's this fella that is in a white van that's in the northbound lane, and he sees a 69-year-old taxi driver over there with this light pole sticking in there, and Lloyd's trying to get the light pole, large aluminum light pole, out of his windshield. So the guy's not going anywhere. So what does he do? He puts his van into park, and he jumps over the little concrete median, and he's helping Lloyd. The two of them are wrestling because they're trying not to scratch the hood. It hadn't scratched. It just went in like a javelin.
Hey, Terral, can you see the picture I've got on the screen?
Yes.
Where would Lloyd have been on this picture? Can we see where he would have been on this picture?
Lloyd is standing. If this is going, you see the clover leaf over here?
Over here?
Yeah, Lloyd is standing right where I'm talking about right here. So if I have all this information pulled up for Project BlackStar. I didn't realize that we're going in this
No
direction.
worries, no worries. But he's over in this area looking down on the Pentagon.
No, he's right where my cursor is. Can you see my cursor?
I can't see your cursor.
Okay, well, you see the clover leaf that's over top of the Pentagon? The clover leaf of the road.
Right here.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's the side. There's the Sitco station over there to the right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and
is it
Lloyd
right here?
Yeah, and Lloyd is right where underneath where your cursor is right now.
Oh, okay, so he's right here.
That's right. He's on the southwest side of the Pentagon.
So then I can see why you're saying that this is the key, because if we listen to this guy and he says, obviously, and with that construction you went over, there's no way it was a plane that penetrated the Pentagon. He saw it was a little hole. All these people came out and saw it was a little hole. It makes sense that they've got to cover up this story, and the best way is to distract us back to New York.
Well, I'm not finished yet.
I'll keep going, please.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot going on. So the president, he is reading this goat story.
Right.
The book's upside down, and he is in trouble. At this moment right here, everything's in trouble because the hypersonic missile and the plane were supposed to hit the Pentagon at the column line 14 position at the same time. Now, the hypersonic missile got ahead of itself, and it blew first it killed the people that were in front of the Pentagon. The people were looking for the $2.3 trillion. $2.3 trillion was a big story. Okay, it injured April Gallup, this was her first day back to work too.
Wow.
And she was rushed through security. She had never seen anything like it because she's supposed to go through special security protocol and everything. No, they wanted her sitting at her desk. They rushed her in there. When she pushed the button on her computer to turn it on is when the missile went off.
Wow.
Right at the beginning. Okay, so here's the deal. The hypersonic missile struck the Pentagon at 9/31/39, killing the people, the accountants, the bookkeepers, the budget analysts looking for the $2.3 trillion. That was submunition bomblet number 1. And that blew up about 80 feet inside the E-ring wall. Now, when you follow that straight line at a 45-degree angle, the next submunition bomblet number 2 exploded inside the Navy Command Center, inside the strong room. This is a concrete reinforced room that was built to preserve life in the case the entire Pentagon was blown up. But since the attack was made at Wedge 1 and was made along column line 14, the second submunition bomblet blew up dead in the center of the room, killing all of the Navy commanders that were convening there because they were called by the Lieutenant Governor of New York to get the planes launched from the aircraft support group that was parked at Norfolk, Virginia.
Right.
You see, so the reason that what happened in, you have to kind of ignore a little bit the smoke screen of what's happening in the New York theater. That happened first so that the Navy commanders could be called and convene in the Navy Command Center so they could be murdered.
So they were trying to kill people and destroy evidence.
Exactly. The third submunition bomb that went off on a 45-degree angle at the rear wall, the C-ring wall position. That's the pictures you see of the hole in the wall, concrete
Yes.
wall. That is the rear of C-ring. 7 defense intelligence officers were murdered in that room. The rest of them, the bad guys, were all relocated throughout the Pentagon, just like the Navy Command Center. The people that were supposed to be killed were put there deliberately, and then the bad guys that were working with Cheney, working with Rumsfeld, working the rest of these guys, they were the ones that were put in different positions. And these are the ones that went through and systematically had murdered people. One wave of people left with April Gallup from that hole. One wave of people left. After that, everything was closed off. Nobody left again because all the witnesses had to be killed. So
oh my, so she barely made it out, so to speak.
She barely made it out. That's right. Barefooted, carrying her kid out the front, but nobody else made it after that first wave. Now, they have brain damage to this day because of the shock wave. And just from the shock wave evidence, they know by the signature that it leaves the type of bomb. So all of these ordnance, they make signatures, they make blast waves, they create certain damage to tissue and to brain tissue and things. And all of that, the FBI has all the evidence, but the FBI is part of the inside job. The NSA is part of the inside job. The CIA, the lettered agencies, the Secret Service is part of the inside job. So everybody is telling the same lie. That's the thing.
Terral, what do you think the chances are that President Bush knew what was going on?
100%.
Okay.
100%. Dick Cheney was running the Global Guardian War Games because he was the one that was in charge of, he with Donald Rumsfeld, they were the ones that were in charge of the continuity of government exercises. So for 2 to 3 weeks every year, they left their families and they ran these simulations, these drills, getting ready to institute the continuity of government, which a lot of that has to do with money that was stolen, being appropriated to the underground Arc City program. So the CFR run underground Arc City program, if you look at the Denver airport and the murals that are there, there's the connection there. There's an underground city there, and that's where they run the real world simulations. And that is the hub of the underground Arc City program for the United States.
Terral, I was just out there not too long ago, and just when you go to the airport, when you are even in the city of Denver, it's just the oppression that you can feel. If you have any spiritual sensitivity about you, you can feel that something's not right. And the people that live in Denver and investigators I talked to there that have been under, contractors and whatnot, they say there is a whole world down there, and it's a dark, black place.
Yeah. If you the story of the earth changes that are coming from Project BlackStar are told in the murals.
No kidding.
That are right there. You can see the explosions. You can see the magma coming up through the earth, the things that are happening. If what your people want to read is the Dakota Report. You want to read the Dakota Report. I've got the Dakota Report. We were the only source for this report. It was given to me by Jim Mars, the late Jim Mars. He also said that my 9/11 work was the best, and we did several radio shows together. If you go to Jim Mars was doing. He did his first radio interview. Doggone it, my mind isn't serving me here. With the RINS network, the RINS radio. Well, if you go and look at his radio shows, in the very first radio show he did, because they asked him, "Who do you want to interview first?" He wanted to interview me.
Wow.
So he was going through my 9/11 work, and he, like Dick Eastman said, it's the best work that they've ever seen. You can't find. And the truth is the same with scripture. The truth is what all the evidence says without creating a single contradiction. So that's what we did as we went through. Went through all the government documentation, and where you see a seeming contradiction, that's where you can tell they're lying.
And Terral03.com is a place to go to get your hands on all this information.
That's right. You can, there's a lot of free stuff. There's videos over in the left-hand side. There's posts, just tons of posts. You couldn't read probably all my work in 3 or 4 months. And then my book, is not yet published, but if you're a newsletter subscriber, it's just $2 a month to be a subscriber. Then you can get my book. You can get both my books, the PDF version, right in the Dropbox folder.
Well, that's money well spent, folks. Go over to Terral, Terral 03.com and get what Jim Mars and Dick Eastman and other experts have called the best, most definitive information on 9/11. If you call yourself a truther, it seems like this is something you'd want to have access to. Please go on, Terral.
Okay, so I'm looking at some of these pictures. If you just Google taxi driver inside job Pentagon, you'll be looking at Lloyd, the guy that I interviewed, looking at his taxi, and you can see the light pole and the images that I'm talking about. Okay, so far in the story that I'm sharing with you, so we're kind of doing this without visuals.
Yeah.
Okay, so the hypersonic missile comes through, because I haven't told you the whole story about that yet. It clips, it actually unroots. The thing to understand about these live poles is that they are made with these special bolts. They each have 4 bolts, breakaway bolts. A Honda Civic hits one of these going 5 miles an hour, they're made to snap off. So that's the reason that they popped up like they did, and they were twisted into pretzels and things. So here's the deal. The guy with the joystick, the airman for the Global Guardian War Games that was carrying out the attack, was losing control of the A3 Sky Warrior. And he had already launched the missile, but it was launched a little bit too fast. The hypersonic is going faster than the speed of sound. The A3 Sky Warrior is going about 500 knots. It's been determined. And then what happened was the light pole started getting twisted into pretzels, and then the airman pulled back on the joystick, and the A3 Sky Warrior flew right over the E-ring roof. It flew right over the White House. It made a turn to the north, and if you follow the CIT guys, the Citizens Investigation Team, they're a disinformation group, by the way, but they do a great job of tracking this plane that makes this wide north turn, which is the A3 Sky Warrior. It was also seen by another O'Brien, who was taking off from the airport right there. Not sure if that was if it was Regan. I think it was. Losing some of my facts here, but he took
That's
off
okay.
at 9:30, and he saw what looked like the attack. He's the guy that witnessed it, and he's the guy that called in. He was the one that identified the smoke from Flight 93 crashing. So they used this guy multiple times to corroborate their story. Okay. The thing is, when you look at the evidence, he made the report of that at 10:03 in so many seconds. In the Arlington County After Action Report, that date was changed to 9:37, over a half hour later. So that's what I mean. The reason that had to be changed is because the FBI was there. FBI Special Agent Combs, he was there. He was already running things on the ground. They were teleconferencing since early on that morning, and they knew that Flight 93 had already crashed at 10:03. They already knew that. They were all teleconferencing with air traffic control. They knew that it crashed at 9:03 in so many seconds. 9:03:11, I believe, was the time exactly. Okay, and they had 5 different sources, from seismographs where they had all the evidence on that. But the thing is, the E-ring roof at the Pentagon hadn't fallen yet. They were trying to give us the story that the giant airliner hit it, right? At just before 9:38. Even though it was originally attacked at 9:31, the E-ring roof didn't collapse until 10:15 and 16 seconds. We have the time-stamped news footage exactly counting down. 10, 15, 16 is when the parapet wall began to fall. I looked at all the data. Okay, so they're lying to you. The government's lying to you when they said that it happened back here at 9:38, when the E-ring roof didn't collapse until 10:15. You see what I mean? So you have an E-ring roof that's sitting there. You've got Navy and Army personnel standing out front after the original missile strike, looking at the hole. So here, go back to the elementary school down here in Sarasota, Florida.
Right.
And the president is sitting there thinking that he's going to be arrested, because they can't sell the story that AA-77 hit the Pentagon if the E-ring roof is still standing.
So that accounts for at least can be some explanation for the look on his face. He thought it was all over.
He thought he was going to get arrested. So they had to come up with this. They had a botched Pentagon attack. It was all botched. The E-ring roof was supposed to fall at 9:31. Well, they couldn't sell that story anymore. So the FAA timeline was supposed to support their inside jobs cover story. But since the E-ring roof didn't fall, they had to make up a series of lies. So here's the thing to realize: why that E-ring roof was up. The original hypersonic missile 931-39 killed a lot of people, but it didn't kill everybody. Those people had to be killed manually.
Terral, what happened to the people that were standing outside looking and seeing it was just a little hole and not an airliner?
What do you mean? What? There's plenty of pictures of them.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
So those people weren't necessarily wiped out. There are still people out there that can tell this tale.
Well, here's the deal. The people, if you get Terry Cohen and you get Mark Skipper and you get Alan Wallace, those were their first days. They're at the Pentagon working in the heliport, out on the heliport pad. If you just get those people together, I don't even know if Lloyd, I interviewed him personally, but he was old then.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if he's still alive, but you get these people together, they're going to be able to tell you what happened. The thing about Mark Skipper and Alan Wallace is that they didn't really know what happened. Whenever they saw the original A3 Skywarrior coming and they thought it looked just like a jetliner. Well, before it even hit the Pentagon, they turned and started running north. They were running away and they were knocked down onto the ground from the shockwave. And both men were rendered deaf from the giant shockwave. So what did they do? They were scared. They had already heard about the attacks on the Pentagon. They thought they were being attacked. So they ran under their vehicles. Well, when they originally crawled under their vehicles, there was no fire. And that's the thing to realize. Whenever this guy that got out of the van was helping, whenever he was helping the taxi driver, Lloyd England, they were both pulling on the telephone pole 4 minutes and 48 seconds after the original missile strike is when they were doing this. The plane returns and it passes behind them. And then it crashes against the Pentagon and the entire Pentagon west wall is on fire. So the fire that ran Mark Skipper, right, and Alan Wallace from under their vehicles came 4 minutes and 48 seconds after the original attack. The Pentagon was attacked multiple times. And it was only after that, because that happened at 9:36:27, 4 minutes and 48 seconds after the original attack. Okay. But then the bringing down of the E-ring wall didn't happen until 10:15:16 exactly. 3 times the Pentagon had to be attacked before the roof fell. So now the reason that the president took off without an air escort is because he thought the air escort was going to be taking him to jail. So he just took off, and then the Cheney and Rumsfeld had to do their part in making this inside job look like anything other than that.
Terral, I was in the Air Force for 6.5 years, and I understand what goes on with security, with high value assets, and I can't even imagine with the president. I don't know if the president has ever before or since taken off without an air escort. That just doesn't happen.
That's right, but it did that day because
he was running scared.
He was running scared, and he did not return. That's the reason he didn't return so much later. He stopped at 2 Air Force bases before he went home, before he finally went back to the Pentagon, because he didn't know. And whenever he got there, who do you think he met there except for the elite that were supposed to be in the buildings in 9/11?
Wow.
They were meeting him there because the inside job, we don't even know to this day. I feel like I know more about this after studying it for so long than most people, but I still don't know if the final goal of what they were trying to achieve was even accomplished that morning.
That's amazing.
Terral, everything was botched.
I have to ask you a question. If you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But I'm just thinking back to the debates this last time with the Republican debates. And there's Jeb Bush talking about how his brother protected America. And then Donald Trump says the Twin Towers came down during your brother's presidency. I don't call that protecting America. And then, of course, the daddy Bush gives the cut the throat. What the hell was Trump doing making such a statement like that, knowing all this that has happened?
I can't say anything for Trump other than if you're a right winger I had a lot of faith in Trump when he first started, but now I realize that he's just another guy.
Yeah.
He's just another inside guy. There's so much that's going wrong. There's so much that he had the opportunity to get right, and he's not doing any of it. There are more illegals here now under Trump than anybody in history.
And that's a true statement.
Yeah, that's just the way that it is. He's just a better liar than the illegal alien in chief from Kenya, who spent their was there. He's just a better liar
Yeah.
than that. But the 9/11 inside job is never going to be resolved in this lifetime. They got away with it. The lettered agencies are supporting them. So the NSA could crack this, right? The CIA could crack this. The FBI could. None of them are. They're all telling the same lie. The Russians know that the A3 Skywire was launched from the Atlantic Ocean. They know that. They were trying to give us that information. The Russians are the ones that are trying to help it, but Trump doesn't want the truth to come out about this. Trump is going to the underground arc cities with his family, just like the Bushes, just like the Clintons, just like Obama.
Will the Russians ever break this over American objections?
It's not going to happen. The Trump administration looks like it's at war with Putin. It looks like it's at war with Pelosi. Looks like it's at war with the left. It's not. There is no left-right paradigm. You have people that are going to the underground arc cities. If you watch the movie 2012, the big guy with the 2 kids, he had the green card. They've got green cards, and they're laughing all the way to the underground arc city program. So you thought that Trump was going to solve the Fed problem? No, the Fed people that own the Fed are the same people that own the underground arc city program, the same people that run Rothschild, Gates, Rockefeller eugenics, chemtrailing, the space-based HARP program, the digitized, the upgraded, right? What's in Alaska, the analog system is antiquated. But that all changed over in 2013.
Wow. So you can't go against the Fed if you want your place in the underground city when SHTF.
That's right. But when you realize the House of Rothschild is what got, through the Secret Service, is what got Abraham Lincoln killed. It's what got John F. Kennedy killed. It's whenever you go against the global bankster cartel, the House of Rothschild, the same people that run the underground arc city program. So when you read the Dakota Report, then you're going to be reading about Project BlackStar, and it has to do with what's coming from space. 9/11 is part of it. So when you read the Dakota Report, read the operations section, you're going to see just a mountain of things that are happening right now under the noses of the B team government that's in Washington, because the A team government is in Denver. Okay, if you want,
a lot of people are saying that.
It's
Did you want to try to transition with as much time as we have left to talk about the BlackStar project and what's going on there and your research in that realm?
Okay. Well, the 9/11 Inside Job book was written in 2010. The Christian book was written in 2005 that was published, The Mystery Explained. And then after that, I was led to, through the discovery of the Ellen comet, believe it or not. Now, it sounds crazy, but the Ellen backwards is 9/11.
Oh, isn't that crazy?
And then the perihelion date when this object reached the nearest point to the sun was on 9/11, 2011, 10 years to the day after the 9/11 attacks. So the keywording of the documentation is what grabbed me and brought me in to Project BlackStar. And now this is in its 9th year. We discovered a gravitational electromagnetic vortex in space that was between the Earth was in alignment with the sun and this object for Fukushima. We predicted that event within 4 days. The year before that, it was the 8.8 Chile quake. The year after that, it was the 8 magnitude Guerrero quake. And if you go to the website, you'll see a long list of earthquakes, including the one that we projected this year. We only missed it by 11 hours because we know when we're passing between the 2 stars. We know when we're passing behind the sun relative to the black star. And when we reach these 90-degree angle positions, we're at one of the 90-degree angle positions right now. So we're getting ready for the second wave of earth changes to take place right now. And then we're going to see another wave of that beginning in December. We're going to have 7 big quakes. We've been doing this for years. We're able to use time differentials between quakes and past events. The next important thing to realize is a magma plume formation. There's a magma plume formation growing in Earth mantle transition zone that is driving the global tectonic volcanic dynamic. It is changing everything, the pattern of earthquakes that is taking place around the world right now. And most people don't even realize about it. Maybe we'll talk about it on the next show. But what I'll send you via email is a link to a couple of recent newsletters. Then you can share those
Please.
with your listeners, and then they can go look and at that and listen to my commentary, because I give an update report every Thursday, a short report and a lengthy report. Go to my YouTube channel, Terral BlackStar, and subscribe. Ring the
Please
bell.
do.
Get the updates. Go to my website. There's plenty of free stuff there. And then when you want more, you want to be a newsletter subscriber. It's just $2 a month, and then you can send me your questions.
Yeah, you
And
lose
then,
more than $2 a month in the cushions at your couch.
right. It's very cheap. And then we have a survival group program, hundreds of families working together in the United States, 3 survival group programs in the Ozarks and 1 along the Texas-New Mexico border. And that's only another $2 a month. Then you can write me for your threat assessment information. I'll hook you up with Rebecca, the landowners, the LLC board, and then you can work out which group that works best for you and start devising your survival strategy. She'll help you with your bug out bag, your bug out location. She's wanting to buy another 40 acres, the survival property. And when I give you your threat assessment, you're going to understand what a real safe zone is, real safe zone area, so we get you out of harm's way. And then that's you've got a good listing of the services that I provide at terral03.com, whether you're a newsletter subscriber, a survival group subscriber, or if you're just a YouTuber and you're getting what you can get. They're on every
Terral,
thread.
are there groups that are organized? I don't want to say, I mean, are there locations where people can go to, or is it, I mean, I'm not quite following you on that as far as the survivability part goes.
Okay, well, we have survival group leadership that have purchased property
Okay.
in real safe zones in the Ozarks, 3 groups, and 1 along the Texas-New Mexico border. That's Linda's group. And they are preparing for what's coming.
Gotcha.
So if you're west of the Rocky Mountain Ridge, there's no safe zone over there. There's a scenario that's playing out there already right now. I'm monitoring deep earthquake events underneath California, beyond 20, beyond 30, beyond 40 kilometers deep. The USGS is altering the data systematically because they're trying to keep you from panicking, because there's every reason to be panicking because of what's happening out west right now. You see the larger magnitude earthquakes that are striking across the United States already. So I'll inform you about the Magma Plume Formation, Buoyancy Barrier Corridor 2A, that's underneath the U.S. West Coast right now. So you will become educated about the threats that you need to prepare for. And then these leaders of the survival group programs, they've been doing this with me for years. So I'm going to give you so much information. You can write for more if you want. But then my goal is to hook you up with Rebecca, with Linda, with Ken, Chris, whichever survival group program works out best for you. And then you guys take things from there.
You know, I respect you for this, Terral, because it's very easy to get on the internet and say that bad things are going to happen. And it's a lot more difficult and a lot less glorious to actually put together strategies and people on the ground, you know, trying to get it done. And I know from talking with Steve Olson, it's not easy to do, and it's very, very, very hard to manage and put together. And so I salute you for, you know, doing that and taking the time and taking the pains and, you know, really trying to provide not just fear and gloom, but real workable solutions for people.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons that the survival group program started, is because you're waking people up.
Right.
And but then it's like fear mongering. You have to give them a solution. And
Absolutely.
the solution is to work together with like-minded people to develop those relationships ahead of time, identify the threats, and then create the contingency plans and work together. So that you see it on the TV, whether it's The Road or the Book of Eli or these catastrophe shows. But the difference is that you have a bug out plan, and then you have a bug out location. And group members, they have work weeks, meets and greets and things like that. So you can develop these relationships, because once the crap hits the fan, you can forget it.
Right. It's over.
You're not going to be joining any group because you're a threat to everybody.
Right.
So it's
Right.
important that you develop those relationships before the crap hits the fan. And what's going on out west, then the crap can hit the fan very, very rapidly. The reason that it hasn't already hit the fan out west is because of the location where the 7.1 magnitude quake hit. If it hit underneath LA, it's underneath San Francisco, pipes are blowing up. The grids are going down. In about 3 days, you got Mad Max.
Yep.
Right. So whenever it comes at the wrong place, all of a sudden you're going to want to get out of town, and you're not going to be able to get out of town. And you don't even have a plan if you do decide to get out of town. Right.
Yeah.
So the idea is to wake up ahead of time, develop these relationships, And my job is to help you guys get all connected.
Now, Terral, in your opinion, is it better to try to align with a group, or to just hunker down and have your own place, your own supplies, your own ways to defend yourself, and just be, kind of out there where you don't have to worry or depend on anybody else?
You're going to have to work together with a large survivor group. The reason, well, there's a long list of reasons, but you're
Sure.
going to want you to go. You're going to need a medical contingent. You need a representation of everybody up and down the socioeconomic ladder, whether it's the military contingent, right? The doctors, the caregivers, the carpenters, the bricklayers after everything's over, the hydroponics people,
Great point.
landscapers. You need, and you have to sleep. When are you going to sleep?
Yeah.
As soon as you go to sleep, Mad Max is going to go house to house, taking what he wants. And I can tell you from experience, there's a lot of people that are not prepping. They have guns. They're planning on you prepping, and they're planning on taking your stuff, right? That's their plan.
So do you think there's actually people out there with the plan of, we're just going to go steal all the stuff that other people prepped up with?
Absolutely. That was my mother's plan. She said, son, we don't need to get a lot of food. We don't need to do all this. We got plenty of guns. That's what she said. That's the mindset of a lot of people.
Wow.
I mean, bless her heart, she's not around anymore. She's made that statement quite a while ago, but it raised my eyebrows and made me realize she's not the only person that thinks that way, right? And so you want to be preparing, and you want to be communicating with like-minded people. So when you join the USA Survivor Group program, you're connected with 250 families that are working in these different groups, and then you decide which group you want to work in. Or if you don't want to join any of those groups, it's possible that you can develop a strategy by working with individual members, those that are in your proximity, and then those you're going to meet later, work directly with the cavern owner. You can develop your own strategy.
Yeah.
But at least when you join our program, you're going to be working with people that have identified the BlackStar related threats and are working to neutralize those threats with a plan.
Gotcha.
So you can just rubbing shoulders with them will help you learn a whole lot that you're not going to learn from people that don't even see the BlackStar coming.
Absolutely. Now, Troy, we got maybe 13, 14 minutes left. Can you talk to people? And I didn't really know this until I started looking at your website. What is the BlackStar? Is that just another name for Nibiru, Planet X? What in the heck are you even talking about?
Okay. The thing to realize, and I'm glad we talked about 9/11 first, because the 9/11 movement is fake. Hate to tell you.
What do you mean by that?
It's run by the lettered agencies.
Ooh.
You have intelligence and counterintelligence working 24/7, manipulating false narratives back and forth like a tennis ball. And they are keeping you mesmerized by watching their false narrative.
Wow.
The same thing is going on with the Planet X movement. That's fake. There's no Planet X. This is thing that we're tracking is not a planet, it's a star. It's the invisible collapsed binary twin to our sun. And whenever it imploded, when supernova along, it was the larger binary twin to our sun, 2 suns in our solar system. If you do the research, you'll see that the Oort cloud contains way more material than it should, because whenever the binary twin, the sister sun to our sun, went supernova, those objects became under the control of the gravity of our sun. So they came in hyperbolic wise, and they circled the sun once, and they went out, and now they're positioned throughout the Oort cloud. Way too much mass in our Oort cloud because we have a binary. Well, this binary is a remnant body, and it's going to be something that's akin to a magnetar type neutron star. It's going to be slowly rotating. And if you're an astronomer out there, I know you're already rolling your eyes. But you have to realize that, like a lump of coal in the ground, when you add more pressure and more time, you can end up with a diamond. Right. Or if you have insufficient pressure, you can still have a lump of coal, or anything in between, right? Of gems and this and that. Well, this is the way it works. And this object is going to be unique. It's shaped by the implosion of our sun's binary. And then it began coming to the inner solar system about every 3,600 years. There is some truth. The perfect lie has a little bit of truth mixed in, right?
Sure.
So there is, for example, I see by looking at the content that you have religious content. So Bible perspective. This is what makes the earth stagger like a drunkard from Isaiah. This is what caused the earth changes in the days of Noah. This is what causes the earth changes in the days of Moses. And if you notice, the lifespans of people change. It's because of this thing that comes from space. This is God's reset button.
Interesting.
And now whenever you read 1 Thessalonians 5, it's going to say that the destruction comes suddenly like the birth pangs upon a woman with child. This is what happens during a springtime crossing event. A springtime crossing event before the BlackStar crosses Earth orbit path and reaches perihelion. Now, when it reaches perihelion, that's the nearest position to the sun. It's going to turn the sun dark from Joel 2. Okay, from Matthew 24, start at verse 29, Christ is saying what's going to happen. Thing is, Christ is talking about when the BlackStar comes on the next BlackStar orbit cycle at the end of the age. Only the Apostle Paul sees how the day of the Lord begins. This destruction that he describes in 1 Thessalonians 5, start at verse 1 there, the destruction that comes suddenly, it comes at the same time that the people are proclaiming peace and safety. The lettered agencies are going to manipulate the narrative back and forth, back and forth. They're acting like there's a war with Putin. There's no war with Putin. They're acting like there's a problem with Trump and Pelosi and that there's going to be impeachment. No, there's going to be none of that. They are keeping you mesmerized like puppets, main characters on a stage. That's what they're doing so that you never think to look up and see the BlackStar coming. Then, because they only have to lie to you until the BlackStar gets there. After that, it doesn't matter.
Right.
The New World Order begins after the BlackStar leaves. And the BlackStar is going to cause the destruction. They don't have to use a pathogen. They don't have to use super soldiers or anything from
all this
space.
stuff that we hear about, all these distractions, none of that has to happen.
No, that's
Gotcha.
a distraction so that you're mesmerized. You're looking back and forth. You're watching the puppets on the stage. BlackStar comes, boom, crap hits the fan. They rush to the underground Ark City. Now, they are going to launch a fail-safe plan. I'm pretty darn sure about that. It's going to include the contagion being released, one that's already out there right now, that they have the binary. What's out there is going to be the first part. It's called a Herald wave, Herald strain. And then they're going to have the second half of that binary weapon. It's going to be used artificial intelligence. It's going to be artificial intelligence assisted. So all of this ties together with the underground Ark City program in Denver, real world simulations run by artificial intelligence, the chemtrailing and that stuff, that's there to introduce nanomaterials into your body so they can connect you to artificial intelligence. AI can communicate to the nanos inside of you. He can take the real-time data from you, your respiration, your heartbeat, everything, and pump it into a real-world simulation as stimulus for a host, a real-world host. There's a real-world Jeff and a real-world Terral doing a radio show in their simulation right now. Now, the idea is they take the stimulus from our bodies and they plug it in to make their simulation more real. Then they can run it to the future and find out who a threat is. That's the idea, but their goal is to reverse the feed later in the timeline.
Wow, this is deep stuff. This
Yeah,
is just, is the BlackStar, is this BlackStar event survivable, Terral?
Yes, it is. The Aborigines, the Chinese, they've been surviving it. The people in the central region of Turkey, when you go to these areas, then they have secrets that they're able to get out of the way of this thing, and their peoples perpetuate. They live, they survive through these things.
Yeah.
The thing to realize is that we do not get the same result every time the BlackStar comes because Earth has 365 different places to be when it crosses Earth orbit path. So it's like a giant roulette wheel, 1.6 million mile segments. So whenever the BlackStar, whenever the Earth is here and it crosses, we get this event, a flood. It's here we get the Earth changes, the day stands still, like in the with Joshua and the days of Moses. You get these different effects depending on where we are. It's whenever we are in the wrong place at the wrong time that we get geological pole shift, quote unquote, sudden destruction events. That's what Paul, in my estimation, whenever you resolve all the seeming contradictions of scripture and of the 9/11 inside job and the earth changes, Project BlackStar, it tells me that we are looking at what would appear to be a near extinction level event, but we can survive it. Also, if you're a Christian, the catching away of 1 Thessalonians 4 happens before the sudden destruction. Right, so the survival group program for Christians is always for those that we leave behind. So
interesting.
You're going for the gusto, for the rewards. 2 Corinthians 5:10, good works, good deeds in the flesh. You're helping people survive, because you have to realize everybody's not made to be a body of Christ. Everybody's not called to judge the world and the angels. Some of them are going to stay, and those are the people that we're here to help. Just like
Yeah.
we're here, just like the gospel's for the unsaved.
And if it turns out that you're wrong, then at least you're prepared, right?
Physically, to the best of your God-given ability, and spiritually, to the best of your God-given ability.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. Just a lot of fascinating stuff. And it's nice that, because a lot of times I hear people say, and my good friend Jay Campbell used to say this, that he's not going to worry about it because we're all going to be wiped out in an instant anyway. So there's no reason to even think about preparing because it's not survivable. How do you address that type of a mindset?
Well, there's going to be a spectrum of people. Everybody, it's a free world, free country. Everybody's allowed to have their opinion. We're just going to disagree on that. The caverns, the underground facilities in the Ozarks, thousands of them, they've been there millions and millions and millions of years. So I believe in using an underground environment that God put there rather than trying to dig one myself. With anything I dig in the ground, it could be blown away. It could be down to the bedrock. But if we're inside of a cavern, also outside air temperatures can be beyond 200 degrees. Now, this fellow that you're talking about, he's going to be 100% correct if you do not get into an underground environment like the elite.
Gotcha.
So he's right. If you're not going to do anything, and if you're like me, then you do things either 110% or you don't do them at all.
Right.
So I'm a member of the Survivor Group program. I lived and worked in the Ozarks 2011, 12, and 13, preparing for all this. So I'm 100%, 10% guy. So I'm a believer in it. And I got my guns, my ammo, all my stuff. And if I don't use it, then my Survivor Group buddies are going to be able to use it. And God, this is evidence in my mind that I really saw coming. So we can stand up before God and say, beat ourselves in the chest. Yeah, we did, but where's the fruit? Where did you help people? Where did you go out of your way, or did you just think about yourself? Did you bury your talent in the ground and thinking that I'm going to reward you for that? You see what I mean? So
I do.
I'm putting it right out there and trying to get going for the gusto, the best heavenly reward possible. Wake up as many people as possible. And then if this other fellow doesn't want to do anything, that leaves more reward for me, is the way I look at it.
Interesting. Terral, give the website again for everyone to go get this information and get on the newsletter and the survival groups and all that, please.
Okay. It's my first name is Terral, Terral. So all you have to do is go www.terral, Terral03.com. And that's it.
Perfect.
3 sections over on the left. Everything about the newsletters. There's a lengthy benefits video right above the PayPal buttons there. Just click on that and you can watch the lengthy video and you know exactly what button. Depends on what you want.
Sounds great.
Happy to help you.
I really appreciate you being with us here today. It's fascinating information. And I do hope, as you kind of alluded to, we can do this again and talk more in depth about some of your other work. Great stuff. I appreciate your perspective. And I do wish you all the best. And thanks again for coming on the program. It's been a real honor and a privilege to have you with us.
You're very welcome. Just let me know when you want to go again. And your subs can write me at Terral@Terral03.com to get more information.
Sounds great. We certainly appreciate you being here with us. And we'll talk to you again real soon.
Great. Thank you very much. And you have a great day.
My pleasure. You too as well. Thanks so much. Well, folks, that was, I know I'm mispronouncing his name, Terral, but you know who he is, you know where he is. And it's very, very interesting, ladies and gentlemen, to have people with different perspectives. I put in the chat room, unequally woke. And you have to understand that there's guys and gals out there that have differing opinions on certain things. And when we're in this place of being in our awareness movement, people that are trying to grow more aware, it's going to be pretty darn near, pert near impossible to have someone that agrees with you 100%. So I have no problem having people on, talking with people that don't agree with me 100%, as long as they don't have to be unagreeable. So, of course, Terral is coming from a much more biblical and Jesus point of view than we do, I do, and that's okay. I can live with that. I can work with that because he brought us a lot of good information. So don't think just because of what I believe and what we generally as a group believe that we're not going to have people outside of that, because that's silly. There's a lot of people with a lot of information that don't agree with everything we say, and we want to be unequally woke. And that was Steady Eddie that fed me that line. So we are going to be unequally woke. We will talk to people that I don't 100% agree with. Please don't fill up the chat with, well, Jeff, he says this and you don't believe with that. Well, if you would just hush for a minute. If you find a bone in your food, what do? Throw the whole steak out? No, you cut around that bone, you set to the side, and you eat the rest of the steak. That's what we're doing here, folks. We're focusing on the steak, and we're setting aside the bone or two that we don't want to consume at this point. So let's be unequally woke if there's things that we can share and learn and benefit from with one another. And whether you believe with that, agree or believe it or not, it was some interesting information. And when you've got people like John Lear saying that his, or Mars saying that his was the best information on 9/11, that's a guy that's at least worth listening to. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure what we have as far as podcast excellence for the rest of the day, but this was a good one. And if you want to go to his website, I would recommend you do. I'm interested in contacting some of those folks that run the survivability groups, and just to maybe go down and talk with them and show what they're doing. And that sounds like a fascinating podcast to me. We got a lot of things coming up, a lot of things going on. I've actually written to the organizer of the Flat Earth Congress, which comes up in November down in Dallas, asking them to give me media credentials. I'd love to go down and talk with those people and interview them as an independent, objective journalist and see what they have to say. Again, unequally woke. Let's get information, all the information that we can, and we'll put more information at our disposal. That way we're able to make better and much more informed decisions, ladies and gentlemen. Again, well, Jeff, he said this about Trump. He said, yeah, I don't agree with everything he said about Trump. He doesn't agree with everything I say about Trump. I'm more optimistic than he is, probably. Well, that's okay. He's still welcome here, and we will still be talking to him again, because we're going to be unequally woke, ladies and gentlemen. We are the last generation of real humans, and you're never going to find humans that are 100% in agreement with you. So you better learn to get along. And if we can learn to get along, if we can learn to disagree without being disagreeable, then we can get busy, and we can get busy winning. So tomorrow we can build a better tomorrow and write the history of how the good guys and the good girls got together, set aside their differences, focused on a common goal, and won. I like that. We'll debate the differences as we sit around the victory table. How's that sound? Are you with me? I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, and I sure hope so.